go.
Hey guys, this is my first YouTube video of the year. We're going to be working on realistic fiction, and I gotta tell you guys, there's no better way to start writing than by writing narratives. Narratives are, so another way you might hear of realistic fiction is called a realistic narrative or a narrative, but basically this type of writing is when you are making a story. And it is so fun to make stories and make characters come to life and have a plot. You kind of feel like you're an author, because guess what? You are. Today is the first day that you really get to start thinking like an author. So let's start by talking about realistic fiction. You might be looking at the word realistic and not really know what that means, and that's okay. The word realistic means it's something that could actually happen. An example of something that could happen is a boy could go to school. Something that could not happen is an alien goes to school. Well, I mean, people have their theories, but play it safe when we're doing realistic fiction. Things that happen in everyday life are things that we like to talk about when we're writing about realistic fiction. I'm going to show you a couple of books, and yes, I love dogs, so of course I have a couple of my favorite books have dogs as the characters in them, but they don't talk in these, so that's what makes it realistic. So we are currently, as a class, reading How to Steal a Dog, and it is a great book. It's about a little girl that is going through some tough times. She's been homeless for most of the book, and she's trying to get out of that situation by taking someone, and this is not the best thing to do, but she's working on herself kind of as we go through the book. But her plan is to take a dog and get the reward money and return it back. So it's not, we've agreed as a class that that's not a great thing to do, but that is a struggle that the character's going through, and we still haven't found out what happens, so no spoilers. The second book that is on here, and I haven't read this in a really long time, is Winn-Dixie, and this is a book about a little girl. She finds a dog at the store, and that's about as much as I remember. But I know that this is an instant classic, and people really like it. Junie B. Jones there's a bunch of them, and this is a little girl that constantly has problems at school and with her friends, and it's a very humorous story from what I've been told. I actually have never read that one either. I was a big, Hardy Boys when I was a kid. I liked, what was the other one? Magic Tree House, but those don't fall into the realm of realistic fiction. When you are writing a story, another really big part of it is making sure that you have characters that we're rooting for, that we really like. Or sometimes, if you're another type of writer, you can make a villain that we really, really dislike and are rooting against. Really advanced writers are able to do that. When we're starting, the easiest way is to have a character that we're rooting for, a good guy. And another word for that is called the protagonist. And the last point on here is we get inspired by things in our lives or things that we've experienced or things that we've seen when we're coming up with ideas. And you might think, well, nothing that exciting has happened to me. Believe me, I'm going to go to the next page and I'll tell you why that's not necessarily true. Because you can find moments in pretty much any situation. So, well, let's ask the question. Have you ever wondered how authors get their ideas? And I'm going to start by talking about E.B. White. This is an author that wrote Charlotte's Web, and I don't think that I think the animals talk in Charlotte's Web, but that's not the point I'm making here. We're just talking about how authors get their ideas. So apparently, I've read this in multiple places, but E.B. White was actually laying in the barn reading a book, or not reading a book, but writing some observations down, sitting in the barn, and he looked up and he saw a spider's web, and that actually inspired him to come up with this book, which is absolutely crazy because this is like a bestseller book. Like this is if you see that little symbol, these are like books that like everybody unanimously loves, and people pretty much of every generation have read it. And it literally came from just laying down in a barn, making an observation, looking up at the ceiling, going, oh, there's a spider's web. Later, he's sitting down to think, oh, I want to write a story. And he makes a story all about, and it's centered around a spider. So yes, I wouldn't think that that's the most interesting thing that ever happened, but if you're a good enough author, you can make anything come to life. So we're going to start by looking at the movie Up. This is a Pixar classic. If you haven't seen it, you absolutely need to. The reason that I picked this movie is that it has elements of realistic fiction, and then it also has elements of you're like, that could never happen in real life because it's very unrealistic. As we watch this video, I want you to be thinking about elements of the movie that, yeah, that could happen in real life, aka realistic. And I also want you to think about elements that are unrealistic. They wouldn't actually happen in real life. They only happen in this make-believe land called Pixar. Let's start watching the video. All right, so the movie starts off with this happily married couple. They're renovating their new house. They're putting in new furniture. They have dreams and aspirations of going to South America. And then it pans to later in his life, and he's just bored all the time, and he doesn't have his wife around anymore. And on top of that, people are trying to kick him out of his house, and he ends up getting in an altercation with them. He goes to court, he loses, and he is pretty much sentenced to go to a retirement home. And as you know, Carl does not like the plan of that. That's why his face looks so sad there. And he's kind of feeling like he has no option. So as the viewer, we're like, dang, man, this is not good for him. And like, you know, he's going through some hard times, and we kind of feel bad for him. And that's because they did such a good job with the character. And this part, he realizes that balloons could be his saving grace. Maybe he can fly all the way to South America if he ties enough balloons to the top. And this window guy just had the moment of his life. He could not believe it. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Now the next activity we're going to do is goal setting, and we're going to go to the live Mr. Steiger. So I will now end the video. Hope you enjoyed. Yo, it didn't disappoint. It is a very good movie. If you haven't seen the end of it, go to Disney Plus and watch it. This is a very good Pixar movie. Right now, we're going to pause the video and we're going to chat as a class. What are some things that we noticed that were unrealistic? And what are some things that were realistic, like things that could actually happen in real life? So go ahead and pause. One of the things that's very unrealistic is, and I hope that it came up during the discussion, is a house being carried away by balloons. The amount of balloons that they have in the movie probably wouldn't even be enough to carry me, and I only weigh 160 pounds, maybe 165 on a good day. So yeah, very, very unrealistic. There might be more, so tell me if you know. Go ahead and comment in the comment section. I'd be very curious. And then there's a lot of things that happened that could happen in real life. I mean, people get evicted from their house, going to court, facing the reality of having to go to a retirement home, being on one of those apparatuses that you clean the windows on. All of those things are possibilities of realistic things that happen in real life. They're based off of things that happen to everyday people like me and you. The goal of today is that you understand the difference between real and realistic, and that you understand that you guys are going to be authors. I'm so excited. Day 1 in the books. Great job, everybody. Here we go.